We'll call this meeting to order, Commissioners. This is a notice of a reinvestment agency meeting here on this, the 14th of December. It's 9:45 a.m. We have a full quorum. Appreciate you being here and appreciate those of you that have helped us make sure that we could make this public and transparent for those who are in attendance and those who may be watching in the future. We have the minutes for the meeting held on March the 30th, 2021. Looking for approval of that.
I make a motion that we approve the minutes for March 30th, 2021 of the Community Reinvestment Agency.
We have a motion.
I'll second that.
And a second. Wonderful. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That motion passes. Thank you. Are there any public that would like to comment? Any here in the chamber? Shelley, are there any online? None online. Commissioners, we'll move to our action item, which is item D, like David, a request for approval of a resolution designating a survey area and authorizing the preparation of a draft community reinvestment project area plan and budget for a proposed West Side Industrial Park Number 1 community reinvestment project area. Our presentation, Commissioners, today will be given by Stephanie Russell, our Economic Development Director, and Mr. Brandon Quinney in our Attorney's Office. Thank you. Ms. Russell, go ahead. You could introduce your Mr. Sant in a moment, if you would.
Commissioners, thank you for this opportunity. I'm going to turn the time over to Mr. Rob Sant. He's going to be explaining the survey area.
Mr. Rob Sant, go ahead, please, sir. Welcome.
Thanks so much. So I'm Rob Sant. I'm Vice President at Lewis, Young, Robertson, and Birmingham. We've been retained by the county to assist with the creation of this project area. So there's a few steps when you create a project area, and the first one is to draft by resolution a survey area where, as the board of the reinvestment agency, you give permission to staff and consultants to review the area to make sure that creating a project area in that area would be feasible and beneficial for the community and the county. And then you grant permission for us to draft a plan and budget. And just as reference, this survey area will be where Project Imagine is looking to locate in the West WEBER industrial mega site. And so it's a 180 acre project area. And this will be the first step where then we will come back at a later date with the draft plan and budget, and you will hold a public hearing as a reinvestment agency board to adopt that plan and budget.
Very good. Commissioners, Mr. Quinney, do you have any presentations for us today?
None for me, Commissioners.
Thank you. Do you have any questions for Mr. Sant or Ms. Russell? Commissioners?
Nope.
With that then, Commissioners, this is Resolution 51-2021. It's included in your packet today. You've had a couple of moments to review that. Take as much time as you like still to just reacquaint yourself with that. And when you're ready, I'll entertain a motion to take action on this resolution.
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the resolution as presented by Ms. Russell and Mr. Rob Sant.
Accepted?
For that CRA.
I would second that.
Have a motion and a second. No more questions? Mr. Brandt, roll call, please.
Okay, roll call vote for Resolution 51-2021. Commissioner Frohr?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Chairman Harvey?
Aye. Thank you, Commissioners. Passes unanimously. Wow. I'll have a motion, Commissioners, to adjourn.
So moved.
Sure, I want to turn this shit.
I'll second that motion. All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you. Good morning and welcome to our Weber County Commission meeting. Today is Tuesday, the 14th of December. It's 10 o'clock. We have a full quorum and quite a full agenda. We're grateful to have you, those of you who have joined us online and those of you who here join us in person. Welcome. Our Pledge of Allegiance this morning will be led by Marty Smith. Our invocation will then be by Scott Park, and our thought of the day will be given by Commissioner Gage Frohr. We'll go to that point now. Mr. Smith?
Please rise and join me in
Our dear Heavenly Father, we are very grateful at this time to come together as a civic body, Heavenly Father, to discuss issues that affect the community. We are grateful for the country in which we live and the area in which we live, which provides us with these freedoms and opportunities. And we recognize that there are many places in the world, Heavenly Father, that do not have these privileges and freedoms. We are grateful for representative government. We are grateful for the chance which we have for people to be heard by their governments. And we pray at this time for Thy Spirit that it may be with us, that we may be civil in our discussions, and that we may be able to clearly communicate those desires and thoughts we have in our hearts. We pray for this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen.
Mr. Chair, this morning I have kind of mixed thoughts. I was going to give my thought message was about how important this holiday season is and how important it is that we enjoy our friends and family. And I'd still like to pass on that, but with just this morning learning that a good friend of mine and a lot of ours, Mark DeCaria, passed this last weekend. It's important that we recognize friendships, especially friendships that go back like mine and Judge DeCaria did from high school on up. We skied a little bit together, and even though we weren't extremely close, every time we saw each other, we renewed that acquaintance and reflected back on those great high school days that we had all the way through college and our kids growing up. And I just wanted to make sure that he's in our thoughts, how important he was, what a critical person he was to the growth of Weber County, past Weber County attorney, past judge. I know Senator Jenkins was involved in confirming Judge DeCaria to the bench, and what a great job he did. One of the most likable gentlemen that I've come to know through the history. I've had experience with him. He's ever said a bad word about anybody on either side of the political aisle, and his full intention was to leave Weber County in a better position than he found it. So I think it's important that we recognize his contribution, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Please. And if the audience and commissioners, if you'll join me just in a moment of silence remembering Mark. Thank you. Commissioner Jenkins, go ahead.
Thank you. I can't let this moment pass either without saying just a little bit. No, Judge DeCaria was a wonderful individual. And as Gage says, he was the old Weber County attorney. And we couldn't get him out of office. He was a Democrat and we were Republicans. And people that were involved in this side of the politics, Mark was a tough competitor, and we grew to really love him. He's just a wonderful individual. And I was chair of the Judicial Nominating Committee when he was nominated by the governor to be a judge. And we look deep, deep, deep inside of people's lives on that committee to make sure that they're worthy and capable of doing their job. And I'm telling you, what a spectacular individual he is, and what a spectacular career he had. And I can speak to that from firsthand knowledge. So I am so sorry for the family and his passing, but I'm privileged to say that I knew him well and was so wonderful opportunity to help appoint him to be a judge for Weber County.
Thank you, Commissioner.
You bet.
It's a little heavy. I'd like to take a little personal privilege, if I could, before we begin our consent items, Commissioners. You know, one of the things that the Weber County's been blessed with is having a fantastic staff, and especially within our commission office. We have great people who take care of us, and they take care of the public. But on a day like today, it's extra special. One of them, it's their birthday. Shelley Hallisey, she's sitting right over here to my left, to your right. It's her birthday. It's always important to create an embarrassing situation for some people, especially if those of you, and because we've got quite an audience today, if you'll just, if you'll join me in singing Shelley a happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday
to you. Happy birthday, dear Shelley. Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday to you. And we appreciate our soloist, whoever that was. Thank you very much. Make sure we get them mute. Thank you, Shelley. Going to move on to item E, Echo Commissioners, our consent items. We'll read those aloud. The first is a request for approval to ratify warrants 4757 and 47, or through and including 4787, and 464072 through and including 464218, and 132 in the amount of $1,206,504.07. Item 2 is a request for approval of warrants 4788 through and including 4822, and 464219 through and including 464368. Items number 133, 134, and 120321 in the amount of $2,354,274.82. Item 3 is a request for approval of purchase orders in the amount of $2,257,216.28. Item 4 is a request for approval of ACH payments to U.S. Bank in the amount of $195,666.45. Item 5 is a request from the Peerage Egyptian Theater for approval to surplus the seats in the theater. Item number 6 is a request from the Golden Spike Event Center for approval to surplus concession equipment. Item 7 is a request for approval to hold a public hearing on December 21st, 2021 to consider potential projects for which funding may be applied under the CDBG program for 2022. And item 8, Commissioners, is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and the Egyptian Theater Foundation to hold the Polar Express at the Peerage Egyptian Theater. Before I take questions, Mr. Lynn Taylor, if you'll go ahead and speak to some of the detail. That's a lot of money being spent. If you'll speak to some of that, I'd appreciate it.
Yes, thank you, Commissioner. As you all have had a chance to review, and for public benefit, we'd like to go over the largest of these, recognizing this is for the past 2 weeks since we didn't have a meeting last week. So we had 40 purchase orders totaling $2.3 million. Largest of these, 77% or $1.7 million, was the transfer station for equipment, and 12% or $275,000 to the jail for security improvements, building maintenance, forklift, mattresses, and ballistic shields. For the week of December 3rd, we had 179 warrants totaling $1.2 million. Largest of these, 20% or $245,000, was for construction at 9350 West, 14% or $167,000 to the Health Department for annex build-out and risk insurance, and 13% or $157,000 for HR software and the Sheriff's Warehouse building. For the week of December 10th, 188 warrants totaling $2.4 million. Largest of these, 34% or $797,000 for employee and retiree health and dental insurance, and 33% or $769,000 was an escrow release for Legacy Mountain, and everything else was less than 10% of the total.
Thank you very much, Commissioners. Questions on any of the consent items or any of the detail?
I do.
Commissioner Jenkins.
So I think this question goes to Bill Ross. On the second set of, what do we call these, bills?
Warrants?
Warrants, thank you. On page 12, there's a Yarborough Construction 2021 concrete repair project. That's, don't you, Sean? I just wondered if that happened to be the repair for that the sewer lift station. Yeah, but we wouldn't be paying for that.
How much was it, Commissioner?
Pardon?
Didn't say how much it was, sorry.
$20,382.
I'm thinking that's the retaining wall here.
Oh, it's
That's what
retaining
I think
wall,
it is,
huh?
where we shotcreted the
Okay.
wall where it was coming apart, and I think that's
That's
what
how I
that
took
is.
it.
I just want to make
The
sure
only
that
other
we're
cement
not.
project we have is this, we replaced a bunch of sidewalks through our engineering department, but that wouldn't have come to that total. I'm pretty sure that's what that's for.
Okay, thank you, sir. That's good, I'm fine with it, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Farrar?
I'm good, thank you.
Great, I'll entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion, Mr. Chair, that we approve the consent items 1 through 8 as presented.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for the consent items. I'll place that Motion for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you. We'll now move on to our action items. Item number 1 is a request for approval of the final reading of an ordinance of the County Commissioners of Weber County amending certain provisions of the purchasing code. Mr. Jason Horn, please come to the pulpit there, or lectern.
Thanks, Commissioners. Appreciate it. Yeah, this is a second reading for the revision of the ordinance. I think it's been since 2011 since it was revised. And basically, this was just an attempt at, one, reorganizing, modernizing it. And so, giving you a little bit of time if there are any questions that I can answer.
Questions for Mr. Horn, Commissioners? We've had this presentation a number of times, and you've done a wonderful job being proactive to get us in a good place so we're more efficient, which saves taxpayers money. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Because there are no questions, there is now. Go ahead.
Well, I don't have a question. I'm ready to make a motion.
Please.
So we've been through this several times in our work meetings and in our presentation here just a week or so ago. And I appreciate your efforts here, Jason, to update this. So I'd make a motion that we approve the ordinance of the County Commissioners of Weber County amending our purchasing code to bring it up to date as presented.
Have a motion?
I'd be happy to second that.
Great, a motion and a second. I believe this is a roll call vote, isn't it?
Okay, roll call vote for ordinance 2021-30. Commissioner Frohr?
So hold on. Let me put that in my motion. I didn't put that ordinance number.
Please.
And I want to make sure that we understand it's ordinance number 2021-30. Sorry about that.
Will you amend your second, please, Commissioner Frohr?
That's so amended.
Great. Now a roll call. Thank you.
Okay, Commissioner Frohr?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Chairman Harvey?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you so much,
Thank you.
Mr. Horn. Commissioners, item number 2 talks about a contract. After speaking with Chief Legal Crockett, we're going to request for approval to ratify a purchase order by and between Weber County and Automation Design and Service for upgrade on the door control system in the Weber County Correctional Facility. Our presenter there is Mr. Jason Horn.
So just to clarify, that purchase order was on the list that has already been written. That was, we received pre-approval on that because this is a safety issue out at the Sheriff's Office, and we wanted to make sure that everyone stayed safe. So to start that project, the purchase order has been sent off. It's been approved by the commission, and it was on the list.
If it was on the list, then I
So-
don't think you need to take further action.
Okay.
I was just
Yeah,
gonna
it's not a
say.
contract.
It's all right. Appreciate you keeping us in a good way. Thank you, Mr. Horn. Great, we'll move on, Commissioners, to item number 3, which is a request for approval of a new elections redistricting map. Now, for those of you online and those of you in the audience, this is a wonderful, this took place in a work session yesterday where we saw some of the figures before, but Mr. Daniel Wade, if you'll make that presentation and basically inform and show why we do what we do, that'd be great. Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Excuse me. Recently, much attention has been given to the redrawing of our congressional and our state legislative districts. What most people don't realize is that redistricting also takes place at the local level. So for the past couple of weeks, the Weber County Elections Office and the County GIS Department, at the behalf of the County Commissioners, we have been redrawing all of the election maps for Weber County. And these election maps are available for viewing at the elections website, which is weberelections.gov. Before I get into the details, I just want to note that as part of redistricting, the Ogden School Board district boundaries are going to be redrawn. That is the responsibility of the Ogden City Council. And it is my understanding that those board boundaries will be approved the early part of January. So as soon as those boundaries for the Ogden School District are approved, we will have that on the Weber Elections website as well. So as the county commissioners, you have 3 responsibilities. The first is to create new voting precincts, or new precincts for Weber County. The second is to establish voter participation areas in Weber County. And the third is to realign the Weber School Board district boundaries. So pursuant to Utah Code 20A-7-401, it is the responsibility of the Weber County Commissioners to divide Weber County into 8 voter participation areas. And as a background, The voter participation areas are used in conjunction with any county-wide initiative or referendum. And with an initiative or a referendum, sponsors are required to gather a certain number of signatures throughout the county. And a percentage of those signatures are required to come from each of the voter participation areas. The statutory requirements for our VPAs are they must be substantially equal in population, and they must be geographically compact and contiguous. This shows the population total of all 8 of our areas, and you can see that they are substantially equal in population. And when these voter participation areas were first created in 2019, it was the desire of the county commissioners to form these areas by grouping together cities. And we use that same principle with these new areas. So for example, area number 2 is Pleasant View, Marriott, Slaterville, Far West, and Plain City. Area 8 would be South Ogden, Washington Terrace, Uinta. And then we do have a couple like Area 5 and 6, which all are within Ogden City. And one area that's all within Roy. And again, this is all based off of population. And this will be the map of the voter participation areas for Weber County. I would like to draw your attention to one area. That would be Area 7. That is the turquoise down at the bottom of the map. That particular area is not quite as compact as the other areas, as you've noticed. But the reason for that is that Area 7 is the southern part of Ogden City, and that purple area just south is South Ogden City. So that boundary between Area 7 and Area 8 is actually following a city boundary, which is why it does not look exactly compact as the rest of those do. Pursuant to Utah Code 20A-14-201, it is the county's responsibility to realign the Weber School Board District boundaries. They again must be substantially equal in population, geographically compact, and geographically contiguous. Here is the population total of each of the districts. So once again, we have met that substantially equal population. I will mention that Utah Code does not specify what substantially equal means, but it is common practice throughout the country for municipalities and for counties to use a plus or minus 5% deviation. That would be acceptable, and all these are well within that 5% deviation range. And this will be the new map for the Weber School Board District boundaries. I would also like to note that through this process, we have been in communication with the Weber School District. They were provided with a couple of options in November to choose for these realignments. And the map that you see here is a result of the recommendations and the input received from the school district. And on Friday of this past week, this map was provided to Dr. Stevens, and he had no objections to this new boundary of these maps. And our final item is pursuant to Utah Code 20A-5-303. It is the county commissioner's responsibility to redraw the precincts within Weber County. The statutory requirements for our precincts is that they cannot have more than 1,250 registered voters. Our precinct boundaries cannot cross city boundaries, so each city has its own group of precincts. And these boundaries cannot cross any legislative boundary drawn by the state. So that'd be our state senate, state house, and our state school board districts. Overall, Weber County will now have 173 precincts. That is 19 more than we previously had. The naming of our precincts will follow the city names of which the precincts are located in. So for example, all the precincts in Riverdale will start with an RIV. Precincts within North Ogden will start with an NOG, etc. And this just makes it easier for us and for anyone to be able to understand by looking at that precinct where that precinct is located. Now, for the precincts that are located in the unincorporated part of the county, we standardize the naming in these areas. So all unincorporated precincts will start with the letter C, standing for county, and then the next two letters will designate where in the county those are located. So for example, COV is Ogden Valley, CSU would be the unincorporated part of southern Ogden and Uinta, etc. And there is a full map of all of these precincts, of all 173 precincts, again, on the elections website, which is weberelections.gov. So with that, I submit for your approval the new election maps for Weber County.
Commissioners, questions for Mr. Wade?
Go ahead.
Comments?
I do have one.
Please.
So after we had our discussion yesterday, I was studying this map. Commissioner Frohr was representative. What was the area
District 8.
8. So, have you noticed that they've renumbered our old Senate and House districts?
Have, yeah.
Man, my Senate district was 20 forever. So, I guess those that are in office today will continue with their number until they go through the re-election, and then they'll go to the new number.
I believe the new number is going to take effect the first of the year. I think that's. I believe.
So then they'll drop their old number and go to a new number?
Adopt the new number.
I think that's true. Yeah.
Wow. That surprises me. So the other question, and I didn't know who to ask last, when I was looking at this. So I don't think there was any senators that got redistricted out. Were there any House members that got redistricted out?
Not that I'm aware of.
No, I don't think so. I think they expanded some south, but.
That's rare,
Yeah.
that you could do that without redistricting someone out.
And I would also mention, if I may, that for the WEBER School Board District, all current board members are currently in the same district. That
In the
they
same
represent,
district.
So no one got
Well,
redrawn
I
out of
tell
that
you,
as well.
that's, I know a lot of people talk about gerrymandering and all this,
Right.
but it's just amazing until you get into the detail, and I mean really down into the weeds of what it takes for you and the state and others to do this. This is really a hard task. And they say, but you do it with the glasses of a Republican or a Democrat, or absolutely you do. I admit that. You do it. You try to be as fair as you can, but there's no question everybody has things in their lives that influence them, and you just can't take those out. You try to be as nonpartisan, as fair as you can, but it happens, and I'm the first to admit it. But I want you to know that I think you've done an exceptional job on the county level, Daniel.
Thank you.
And I'm very pleased.
Thank you.
Commissioner Faure?
I'm ready to make a motion whenever you're ready.
I'm ready.
So I would make a motion to approve the new election redistricting maps as presented by Mr. Wade this morning, with the comment. Again, I would echo what Commissioner Jenkins said. We appreciate your hard work on this. As somebody that drew maps 10 years ago for Weber County, it's not all that easy, especially when you start looking at the detail that you have to do, which is crossing city boundaries, crossing legislative districts. That when we drew legislative maps, we didn't have to worry about that. We just put the line where we felt it should go. But you have that extra criteria placed upon you. So I think you've done a fantastic job with this. I think in talking with the school district, a couple of the school district members, they seem to be very satisfied with this, not huge changes. So, and then the additional precincts, we understand that some turned out a little smaller because of those cases, but they were necessary to meet the criteria placed upon you by state statute.
Right.
So that's my motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Great. We have a motion?
I'll second that with the thought. When you talk about that, in 2011, I was fairly heavily involved with the redistricting effort, and so we were probably in several of those meetings together.
Yeah, I actually sat on the redistricting committee, so.
Yeah.
So we traveled the state. It's a big job.
Yeah, was.
Yeah.
Have a motion and a second before I place this motion. Mr. Wade, I want you to know that it's the opinion of this commission that we value you here. You're a man that we credit with a great deal of integrity. You have a fantastic work ethic. You and your team have done a wonderful job, and we trust the work you do here within Weber County. As we've seen, because of the number of requests from not only within our state but also within the country, many people within the country look to Weber County and the way you conduct our elections business as the standard of quality for what's happening, and I wanted you to know from us how much we appreciate what you do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Place that motion for vote. Commissioners, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, sir.
Commissioners, item number 4 is a request for approval of an ordinance to vacate the 10-foot public utility easement located along the north side of lot number 2 of the Lakeview Estates at 1282 North, 7100 East in Eden. That's a UVL 110121. Our presenter, Mr. Felix Yavarino.
Thank you.
Felix,
Good.
go ahead, please.
Yes, good morning, Commissioners. This is the second time coming before you for this item. The first time was in the form of a public hearing meeting. This time what we're looking to get is just the finalize of the ordinance itself. In the staff report that was provided is included the ordinance and the opportunity for the commissioners to mark their vote. Just to note, last time we met on November 30th, the vote was unanimous in that public hearing to approve the request to vacate a public utility easement.
Very good. Commissioners, questions for Felix? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I'd make a motion that we approve item number 4, which is the to vacate the 10-foot easement as described.
I have a motion
Second.
and a second. I'll place that motion for vote with a roll call. Mr. Brandt,
Do we want to amend the motion?
please to include the number.
Oh, sorry, it's right here. I just buried it. It was number 2021-30.
And for the record.
29. It's actually 29.
Oh,
Sorry, say,
-29.
Correct.
So 2021-29.
is there a second also?
Second's good with that.
Great. Mr. Brandt?
Okay, Commissioner Faur,
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins,
Aye.
Chairman Harvey.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Felix.
Thank you.
Commissioners, page 2. Item number 5 is a request for approval of a contract by and between Weber County and Arbinger Institute to provide training on their outward mindset material to the employees of the Weber County Sheriff's Office. Our presenter today is the very capable Aaron Perry. Chief, go ahead.
Hello, Commissioners. Thanks for having me. This is an agreement that's been in the work for quite some time, and I'm very excited to see this move forward. I think that this training has the potential to significantly change the culture at the Sheriff's Office. Just to give you a little bit, under this agreement, the Arbinger Institute is going to come in and present and implement a series of different trainings and some coaching to the executive staff. We have a long-term plan to sustain this and make this not just a one-time event, but to make it ongoing part of the culture at the Sheriff's Office. To give you, if you're not familiar with the Arbinger Institute, just briefly to give you kind of an introduction to what they teach this concept of 2 different mindsets, that we operate either from an inward mindset or an outward mindset. When we're operating from an inward mindset, we see people as objects, whether it's an obstacle that we need to get around, something that's between us and going home, like that project that comes up at the end of the day and keeps us from going home, or maybe just an irrelevancy to be ignored, or a vehicle, somebody that we just use to get from point A to point B. When we see somebody with an outward mindset, we see them as a person. We see them similar to ourselves with objectives and needs and wants and desires. And I'd just like to share a quick story. I've been familiar with this material for over 10 years and have taken a couple of their classes personally, and would like to share one experience that I had just to give you a brief insight to what the potential this material has. So it was actually during a 2-day class that I was taking from the Arbinger Institute. I went home overnight. I had other things that I needed to do the next day besides going to the class. I got an email from the sheriff overnight from a complaint. It was just forwarded to me. It was a complaint. I was over the jail at the time. It was a complaint from a citizen that was upset about her inability to communicate with her husband, who was incarcerated in our facility. I immediately looked at this from an inward perspective. I looked at it as how it impacted me. Now I had one more thing on my plate that I had to do, one more thing that I needed to do before I went home the next day. I was a little frustrated with the fact that this individual was able to bypass our normal chain of complaints and go right to the sheriff because of personal relationship. So I was contemplating things that I could do and solutions, but because I was looking at it from an inward mindset, they were inward solutions. I thought about ignoring the problem and waiting for her husband to be transferred to the prison, then the problem would take care of itself. I thought of some other inward related solutions. And then I took a minute to think about her as a person, probably less than a minute. Thought, what do I know about her as a person? I knew that she had children at home. I knew that she had a husband in jail that was headed to the prison. And I knew that it was after Thanksgiving and just before Christmas. And I thought about how hard that must be to be in that situation where you're going into the holidays, you're trying to get your keep your kids in touch with their father, and we did. We had some. Due to COVID, we had some serious communication issues. We had just transitioned our communication platform, but the new system was stuck in California on a ship, and the old provider didn't want to service their material because they were out of the contract. And so we were having some issues. But when I took a minute to think about her as a person, it changed the way I wanted to handle it. Now it became important for me to reach out to her. It became important for me to set a time and meet with her. And I reached out immediately, offered to go to her, or she could come in to the office. She came into the office. We worked through the problem, and that solution had a significantly different outcome, approaching it from an outward mindset versus an inward mindset. I reached out. We obtained a grant to fund this project. We attained it under the Community-Oriented Policing Grant, a federal grant. If you're familiar with community-oriented policing concept, it's a concept where law enforcement and the community works together to solve crime. But in order to work together, you have to have that trust and that relationship. And that trust has to start with the mindset. If our officers aren't truly seeing the individuals they interact with as members of the community, any program that you implement is set up for failure because people are going to see through it. It's not genuine. And so I think this training it's been implemented in multiple law enforcement agencies, a lot of private sector agencies, many branches of the government use this program, and I think it's got a ton of potential at our office, and I'm excited to see it move forward.
Great. Thank you so much for your presentation and that story too.
You're welcome.
Chief, that's great. Commissioners, questions for Chief Perry? This is a contract.
Comment, if I might, Mr. Chair. So this is just another example, and I'm a little familiar, I've had some discussions with the sheriff. Just another example of what our sheriff department has done over the past 2 or 3 years in stabilizing their workforce, making sure that our law enforcement personnel were looked after in a number of ways, and especially as we know in today's society, mental health is very important. It's a tough job. It's probably one of the toughest jobs that I'm glad I've never had to do. But I think in looking at the results of this program and doing a little research on it, this will be something, again, that makes Weber County stand out. Remember, a year and a half ago, 2 years ago, we made some changes in the health of our inmates. And that's been a substantial change in the right direction, that we're paying attention to our public and the consumers out there that are in that facility. So I fully support this. Anything we can do for law enforcement to help that mental capacity, making sure that they're appreciated in their jobs, make sure that they have the resources necessary to do their jobs is very important to this county, Mr. Chair.
Thank you so much, Commissioner. I'd also like our Chief Counsel, Chris Crockett, to share. Do you have any experiences with regards to this outward mindset you'd like to comment with regarding this?
Yes, I actually had my civil staff read The Outward Mindset. It was a wonderful book, and I can attest that there's a lot of potential to this program. And I shared an example with my staff this morning when we were going over the items on the agenda about an example of how this has worked, and it's actually with the sheriff's office. I recently had to give a presentation down in Kanab to the civil attorneys throughout the state. And it was about how to work with your different departments. And I called the sheriff to get some advice from him about the presentation right before. And we had such a good conversation, and I was reflecting on what a great relationship the Weber County Attorney's Office has with the Sheriff's Office. It is unique in the state. There are other departments, I mean, they're good departments, but there seems to be contention and some underlying animosity, and they always seem to be at odds with each other. But in Weber County, people noted that our office and the sheriff's office get along really well, because I think we value that relationship that we have with each other. My team, and I'm very proud of this, they look for ways to serve the sheriff's office to implement your goals. and it's reciprocal in that you all are always trying to help us. And and it's not just the Attorney's Office and the Sheriff's Office. I see that mentality throughout Weber County, and I'm really, really proud to be a part of this establishment where you see so many people with that outward mindset. It's really wonderful.
Thank you, Mr. Crockett. If there are no other comments, I'd entertain a motion.
I do.
Go ahead.
Well, this isn't a comment about the program. I was going to go vote no on this until I heard that you had it funded by a grant. But, this is one of those deals that I like to be kept in the loop on what's happening here, and there hasn't been a presentation to us in our work session on this. And I feel a little blindsided to come here and just see this.
Thank you.
So, no more than that, but I am going to vote yes on it.
Thank you. In the future, especially if it's grant funded, if you'd make sure
Yes,
that's
sir.
on a work session.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Chief. Commissioners, is there a motion?
I'd make that motion to approve this.
And I'll second that.
Great, I have a motion and a second, and it's contract. We'll call for that vote now. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you, Chief.
Thanks, Commissioners.
Commissioners, I'll handle item number 6, which is a request for approval of a resolution of the County Commissioners, of the Board of County Commissioners, Weber County, appointing a member of the Utah Association of Counties. Commissioners, in the past and currently, the Utah Association of Counties, a group that has all the counties' participation throughout the state, has a board. And on that board, we've been fortunate to be represented by our own Commissioner, Scott Jenkins. Commissioners, he's done a wonderful job. He's dutiful. He attends the meetings. And it is good to communicate back to us what's happening down there. And it's my hope that, Commissioner Jenkins, you'll accept my plea to you to continue to serve on that board.
I will continue to serve, but I just want you to understand that I don't have to. If either of you two would like to take this over, that's just fine. I like it. It's fun, and if you remember, all it really requires is when we have our conferences, things like that, I have to go down a day early, because we have a late meeting the night before. And so it's those meetings, we hold them quarterly. So it's kind of up to you. I really don't care, but I will serve one more year, absolutely.
I've had that privilege. Commissioner Farrar, what's your thoughts? I kind of jumped the gun there. I don't know what
Yeah,
your
if you care to take this, Commissioner Farrar, it wouldn't bother me.
No, I actually feel that Commissioner Jenkins is the right man for this job. So,
Well,
absolutely, he needs to stay with it. I would move to appoint Commissioner Scott Jenkins as part of the Utah Association of Counties Board of Directors.
Great.
I'll second that.
Great, wonderful. Well, that makes that quite easy. It's a resolution. What's the number?
52-2021.
So we'll vote on 52-2021 on this. We'll make that part of the resolution if that's okay.
Please
Farrar
do.
And Commissioner Jenkins?
Yeah.
Very good. Go ahead for the roll call vote, Mr. Brandt.
Okay, roll call vote for Resolution 52-2021. Commissioner Farrar.
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Aye.
Chairman Harvey.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you very much. Moving along, item number 7 is a request for approval of agreements by and between Weber County and the following individuals to perform civil commitment evaluations: Michael Roundy, Dennis Smith, Rhett Potter, and Todd Suter. Mr. Barron? Mr. Crockett, will you go ahead and take that for Mr. Barron?
Thanks. Commissioners, pursuant to Utah's Substance Abuse and Mental Health Act, the county is responsible to pay the cost for involuntary commitment proceedings for individuals who reside within the county. Those are usually done through people who are committed to Weber Human Services, but also appointments through the district court. And we have been paying for those services. But we noticed that when the court would appoint just anyone, that we would get inconsistencies in our billing and the timing that we would receive invoices. And so we thought it would be in the best interest of the county to bring some stability to that so that we know what rates to expect when those invoices come in and that they are processed timely. So we entered into contracts with these 4 individuals, setting the established rate and when they have to bill us by, and to have criteria to monitor their performance.
Very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate that. Questions for Mr. Crockett on this, Commissioners? Being in my portfolio, I would appreciate a recommendation or a approval from one of you, a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. It's an agreement. I'll place that agreement for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Crockett. Moving on to item number 8, Mr. Brian Cowan. Here's a request for approval of a resolution of the County Commissioners of Weber County appointing members to the Weber-Morgan Board of Health. Mr. Cowan, welcome, and go ahead, please.
Thank you, Commissioner Harvey, and I appreciate the time on your agenda today. I'm here to discuss 4 terms of the Weber-Morgan Board of Health that are expiring on December 31st of 2021, and the appointment of new, either reappointments or appointment of new people to occupy those positions. The first one we're asking for is a reappointment of Dr. Frank Brown, who represents the Weber Medical Society on our Board of Health, and the reappointment of Alicia Martinez, who represents Midtown Community Health Center on our Board of Health. The new appointments would be Jason Boren, who is the Chief Operational Officer of the Ogden Regional Hospital and is serving in the hospital representation position on the Board of Health, and Doug Jacobs, the Superintendent of the Morgan School District, who will be serving in the position of the school districts on the Board of Health.
Very good. Commissioners' comments for Mr. Cowan. I'm going to go to you, Commissioner Froer, in as much as this is in your portfolio.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I appreciate Mr. Cowan coming forth with these nominations. I actually sit on that board along with these individuals over the past 2 or 3 years, and I have no issues with these people that he's nominated, but because of I think we just learned about this yesterday, I'm going to make a motion that we hold this until next week so that we can, I know there was a couple of questions that came up in our work session, but I definitely want to be on record that I don't have any issue with the people talked about here. I think it's basically a discussion that we need to have on the structure going forward. So
I second.
That'd be my motion.
So I have a motion and a second. I'll place that motion for vote. It would be Resolution 53-2021 to hold. Mr. Brandt?
Okay, Resolution 53-2021. Commissioner Froer?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Chairman Harvey?
Nay. We'll vote. Thank you, Mr. Cowan. On number 9, a request for approval to ratify a contract by and between Weber County and the Grand Theater, Inc. for a performance of 5 Carols for Christmas. Again, this is a ratification of a contract. This was held at the Grand Theater. Ms. Cassie Bybee, go ahead.
Okay, just to clarify, this isn't a ratification. This is a new contract. We open at the Grand Theater this Friday.
Okay, thank you.
So it's the show's being held Friday the 17th of December through the 23rd of December. So what this contract is we actually, the Grand Theater, Seth Miller, their artistic director, approached Ogden Musical Theater after seeing 5 Carols and asked if we could take the show ready down to his facility. So we contracted with him, and he is paying us $10,000 to take the show. And then he's done all the marketing for the show down there, and then he is also contracting with the actors separately of the contract with us, as well as some of the production team. And then he's also covering the rights of the additional performances of the shows that will be down there at the Grand Theater. So that's what this is.
So this is this would be a approval of a contract then?
Correct.
Commissioners, questions for Ms. Bybee? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for approval of this contract.
I'd make that motion. It kind of tickles me to see this happen. It lets you know that the quality of what's happening here at the Fair Egyptian Theater is quality is high enough that others want to share in it. And I think congratulations is due with this.
Thank you.
You bet.
Yeah, that's great. I have a motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. I'll place that motion for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Ms.
you.
Bybee. You've done a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Item number 10, Commissioners, is a request for approval of a resolution of the County Commissioners of Weber County requesting that the United States of America preserve restrictions on the use of certain parcels of property near the Weber County Fairgrounds Golden Spike Event Center. Assistant Director Jennifer Graham, go ahead.
Thank you. Good morning. Yes, this is a resolution that has been prepared that was just basically a communication to both Ogden City and our representatives and legislatures to if they were to be approached, to have that restriction of that quit claim deed taken out of the contingencies or the conditions of that quit claim deed, that they uphold and preserve those restrictions. So we're just looking for approval of this resolution.
Very good. Questions, commissioners? We've all been briefed. Okay, I'll entertain a motion for approval of this resolution.
The collector is going to do that, Gage.
I'm happy to, if you'd like.
Please.
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve the resolution of the County Commissioners, Weber County, requesting that United States of America preserve the restrictions on the use of certain parcels of property near Weber County Fairgrounds. And I wholeheartedly support this. We know that this particular piece of property needs to be maintained in county hands if we're going to continue the operations as we now have it at the fairgrounds.
Commissioner, if you'll include in your resolution that resolution number, Mr. Brandt, go ahead.
Yeah, please put that number in.
What is that number?
54-2021.
So moved.
And I will second that.
Thank you. We have a motion to approve Resolution 54-2021 to preserve the use of the property near the Golden Spike Event Center, Weber County Fairgrounds. I'll place that motion for vote. Mr. Brandt, roll call.
Okay, roll call vote for Resolution 54-2021. Commissioner Faur?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Chairman Harvey?
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Graham. Item number 11 is a request for approval of the first reading of an ordinance of the County Commissioners of Weber County updating county park fees. The Director of Culture, Parks, and Recreation, Mr. Marty Smith. This is fees ordinance number 16-2-3. Go ahead, Mr. Smith. Thank you for
Mr.
staying,
Chair.
by the way. I know you have another obligation in Salt Lake shortly.
Good morning, Commissioners. As you know, and we've discussed across our divisions, we're facing a lot of cost increase across the board. Fuel, cost of goods, labor. So we've chosen to take an extensive look line by line at all of our fees through all of our divisions. With the help of Liam and the attorney's office, we bring before you those fees. There's a lot of them in there. It's been a while on a few of the fees that we haven't addressed them in a few years. And of course, we have some new services coming online that we need to add. For example, the yurts in North Fork Park. So all of that is included in what's before you today.
Very good. Commissioners, questions for Mr. Smith? This is a first reading. I'll entertain a motion for approval.
I'll make that motion.
Thank you. Have a motion?
And I would second that with a comment, Mr.
Please.
Chair. So I'm happy to see that we're addressing these fees. I don't think it's any secret that I'm a firm believer that people that use these facilities should pay for it rather than it go on the overall general taxes. So I'm a believer that user fees go a long ways toward making sure that the public that uses that pays for the services and pays for the usage of those facilities.
Very good. Thank you. Well said. We have a motion and a second. I'll place that motion for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Smith. Mr. Crockett, your item number 12, which is a request for approval of the first reading of an ordinance of the County Commissioners. Stop. Did I need an ordinance number with that, or will that come with the second reading, Mr. Brandt?
It'll come with the second reading.
Thank you very much. So we'll go back to item number 12, a request for approval of the first reading of an ordinance of the County Commissioners of Weber County updating public infrastructure fees, 16-2-17. Chief Legal, Chris Crockett.
Thank you very much. Commissioners, a month ago, you passed a policy governing the creation of public infrastructure districts. State statute allows, when those petitions, when they come in, for the county to recoup the cost that it takes to review those. There's a lot of information that we have to go over with each of those applications. And so we really haven't had one come in yet. And we don't know exactly what fee or how much review is going to be involved. But we have put a $3,000 fee. We're proposing a $3,000 fee for those petitions, but there's also statutory provisions that allow us to recoup any additional costs that are incurred as a part of reviewing those petitions. So we present this to you for consideration in a first reading.
Very good. Commissioners, questions for Mr. Crockett regarding this first reading of this ordinance? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
A motion and a second for the first reading. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 13 is a request for approval of the first reading of an ordinance of the County Commissioners of Weber County updating clerk auditor's fees. Mr. Scott Park.
Thank you, Commissioners.
The finest comptroller in the state of Utah.
At least the finest in Weber County, right? Or the only. What you have before you is some adjustments to the clerk auditor fees. So what we want to do is raise our marriage license fee $10. That'll put us on par with Davis County and also Utah County, and it just reflects the additional cost of staff and paying for that. But we also are proposing some adjustments to our certified copy of marriage licenses. So right now we charge you $9 per copy, and what we're saying is we don't really need to charge $9 for every copy. We'll charge you $9 for the first, and any additional will only be $5. We've already taken the time to look up, to pull up the information. It's essentially just sticking in another sheet of paper and printing. So we want to lower that second copy down to $5. And also for our passport photos, currently we charge $15. When we first set that, we did our best estimate of what those costs are. Really, it's not costing us that much, and so we want to lower that fee down to $10 for the first photo and $5 for each additional photo. Just as a comparison, Utah County charges $10 per person, so we're actually going to be a little bit cheaper than that if you have multiple photos taken.
Commissioners, questions for Mr. Park? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for this first reading of this fee update for the clerk auditor.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. I'll place that motion for vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number 14 on our agenda, Commissioners, is a request for approval of a resolution, and this would be resolution number 55-2021, adopting the Weber County property tax increase for the calendar year 2022. Mr. Park, go ahead.
Commissioners, with your approval, I would like to take item number 14 and 15 together, as they go together, that one can't go without the other.
I'm fine with that.
Okay. So we had a public hearing back at the end of November where we proposed a tax increase of $2.1 million. $1.1 million of that is going to the library, and $1 million would be dedicated to flood control. We took public comment at that time. The comment was fairly split in favor of and some opposing. Since that time, I received 3 additional phone calls, while all 3 expressed support for the libraries. 2 of them also expressed concern about taxes in general and just inflation and the overall cost. But the feedback, so again, split between there. So what you have before you is the resolution to actually increase the taxes by $2.1 million. That's about 4.5%. That will go into our 2022 capital and operating budgets. Now, at that time, we also took comments on the budget itself, and we didn't receive any additional feedback on the actual budget proposals, just the tax increase. But we did make some additional changes to the 2022 budget since the tentative budget, and what we did is we received a new grant for $200,000 at our Center of Excellence, and so I've added that to the final budget. It's paid for by external funds, so no additional cost to county taxpayers. But we are also going to rent some space in the Weber Center on the first floor and the second floor to cover some additional space needs for our public defenders and also for our attorneys. And so we've added $193,000 to cover that rent expense. And then we made a few other minor personnel adjustments. So people quit, people get hired. We adjusted the budgets to be at their new salary. So those are the changes that we made to the tentative budget, from the tentative budget to the final budget. And so I put before you both the resolution to approve the property tax increase and also another resolution to approve the operating and capital budgets for the 2022 calendar year.
Very good. Commissioners, questions for Mr. Park regarding either item 14 or 15? Hearing none. Mr. Park, was it a year ago or 2 years ago we lowered the tax for 94% of the people in Weber County?
2 years ago, we lowered, so this will be the third budget year, so 3 budget cycles ago, which would have been 2 years ago, we lowered the taxes on 96% of the people and raised it on the unincorporated. Last year, we also did an adjustment on those who lived at the top of Powder Mountain so that the rest of the county wouldn't have to subsidize those. But so to your direct question, yeah, 3 budget cycles ago is when we lowered taxes.
Very good. I wanted that to be on the record. Thank you very much. Commissioners, if there's no questions for Mr. Park, we'll vote on these 2 resolutions separately. I'd entertain a motion for item number 14, which is resolution number 55-2021, if I'm counting correctly. Is that right, Mr. Brandt?
That is correct.
Thank you. Item number 14, resolution 55-2021, adopting the Weber County property tax increase for the calendar year 2022.
Mr. Chair, I would move to approve Resolution 55-2021, the Weber County property tax increase, calendar year 2022. I'd just say that, we had the public hearing on this. I think, obviously, the public had an opportunity to have their voices heard. Tax increases are never easy. They're never something that we enjoy doing, but in this particular case, I think it's evident that where this money is going, primarily the libraries, which we obviously need to maintain as a critical infrastructure of this county, very important, and as well as the flood control for the future, knowing that it's time that we start thinking ahead rather than dealing with these issues as they come up and then have a bigger tax increase at some point in the future. So I'd move to approve.
The motion?
I would second that with the same comment. I got a email day before yesterday from a person that talked about this, and they become very condescending, and I didn't. You just let them go. I didn't write them back, but you feel like saying, well, did you come to the public hearing? Did you understand what it is we're doing and why we're doing it? The libraries has the same problem that the others that stood up here today have. They have expenses that are increasing because of inflation and everything that goes with them. The amount of books they buy in a year is astronomical. Until I started approving these budgets and looking at what Linda did, you just don't realize how many books and different things they approve every year. And we've had a study done on our storm drainage since before I got here, and it at the time was $30 million, and it's probably double that now, and we just haven't addressed it. And the lady or the person in this email said, well, there's not any floods, there's a drought right now. And that's true, there is, but that all happens until the first storm comes by, where you're the guy flooding. And we just have to stay on top of this stuff. If we don't, we're not doing our job as commissioners. We have to stay on top of that. And a good example is the other day we met on, was it Milk Creek? Milk Creek. Well, in Birch Creek too. Birch Creek's the one that goes under the railroad tracks. Correct. Yeah, it goes under the main part of the railroad tracks. And that it's fallen apart under the weight of those locomotives, and we just have to get around to fixing this. And if we don't do it, one of these days that's going to give a little. I know when the storm comes, all those businesses down there will flood, and we won't even know that there was a problem until the water starts backing up, and then it's too late. So we're trying to be proactive and stay on top of this. And but it's all well wishes until you get some money that you can actually do some of this with. And so we're trying to address that study and get on top of it. Well, start addressing it. It'll be years before we get on top of it, but you want to address the most critical things. So I'll second with that.
Thank you. Commissioners, I'll say, and as much as we're wrapping down, and thank you, Mr. Park, too, this comment really reflects very positively on you and your team. This is my 6th budget cycle, actually 7th. Well, actually 29th, but in this capacity, there I believe were 9 budgets that were going bankrupt. They were plummeting, and this takes that curve and at least levels it out This is the last 2 of those 9. I'm so incredibly grateful, not just as a commissioner, but as a person, knowing inside, if people are critical of this, it's for us, my inability to be able to communicate properly how important it is to make sure that we're efficient in what we're doing. People would say, well, you should just cut in other areas. We've done a wonderful job in cutting in other areas, and most of the actions that we're taking today are a result of that. The good financing that was available during COVID, we took advantage of that, which saved us $2.5 million a year. Our insurance premiums for the county went up almost as much as the new growth to the county, yet we're still able to manage and do things less than what the inflationary growth is, not far less, and we're in a great space moving forward. I'm very grateful for these 2 gentlemen that sit beside me. They're very good business-minded people. And both are men of character. And I'm grateful for what I've been taught by them, and thankful to you too, Scott, for you've poured yourself into this. This is just hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of hours that doesn't just take place in the last several weeks, but over the last several years. You've steered us well, and I appreciate your efforts. Thank you. So, Commissioners, with that, we're going to call for the roll call vote for resolution number 55-2021. Mr. Brandt.
Okay, roll call vote. Resolution 55-2021. Commissioner Frohr.
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Aye.
Chairman Harvey.
Aye. Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item number 15, Commissioners, is a request for approval of a resolution 56-2021, adopting the operation and capital budgets of Weber County for the calendar year 2022. Commissioners, we've covered most of this in the last piece. Are there any other comments you'd like to make? If not, I'll entertain a motion for 56-2021.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. Mr. Brandt?
Okay, roll call vote for resolution 56-2021. Commissioner Frohr.
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Aye.
Chairman Harvey.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Wonderful. We'll move. Thank you, Mr. Park. Anything you'd like to say?
I'm just waiting around for the next item.
You are? Why don't you just stay right there then?
He's not going anywhere.
We're going to move on to item number G, like golf, which is a request for a...
Page 3.
Page 3.
Page 3.
Hold it. Let me say that correctly. Page 3. Okay, item G, which is a public hearing. This is a request for a motion to adjourn our public meeting and convene a public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. This is a public hearing to discuss amendments to the operating and capital budget of Weber County for the 2021 calendar year. 2021 calendar year. Our presenter, Mr. Scott Park, go ahead.
So as you mentioned, this is to adjust the budget for the rest of this year. So as we go along the year, things change, opportunities present themselves, and so we want to make some final adjustments to the 2021 budget. The biggest item on there, which you approved in a purchase order today, was $1.75 million to purchase some transfer station equipment. Now, previously, we had been leasing this equipment from Caterpillar, and by actually paying for that up front, we're going to be able to save about $40,000 per year for the next 5 years. So it makes sense. We're in a strong financial position. We have enough cash on hand. We can go ahead and buy this equipment with a guaranteed buyback. We'll save about $30,000 to $40,000 a year on this. So it's taking advantage of that strong financial position we're in to make wise decisions moving forward.
There's just another example of the little areas we save here and there, $30,000 to $40,000 more a year. Go ahead.
The next section that you have on your paper is different grants that we've received. So we received $500,000 to replace the chairs at the Perry's Egyptian Theater. We received a ramp grant at our shooting complex. We received a grant for some trauma screening at our Children's Justice Center. And then we had one administrative change with our CARES Act. We had originally budgeted that in our general fund, not knowing that we were going to get ARPA. Then ARPA came along, which was another government program, and so we moved all those expenditures over into the ARPA, and then after thinking about it for about 6 months, we decided, you know what, we would rather just keep that CARES Act and ARPA funds separate so we can report to the public on those separately and show, since they have different uses, exactly how we're going to do it. So this is just an administrative change to push that revenue expenses back into our general fund. It's not any new dollars. It's just budgeted in a different fund. In addition, we have some additional revenues that have come in for our building inspections that we need to use to pay for our building inspectors to hire contractors to go out and do building inspections within a certain time frame. We've had some additional revenues come in at our Golden Spike for concessions revenue that we want to use to spend to buy additional products to sell. We have some extra principal payments that have come in on our special assessment area bond up at Powder Mountain. So these are homeowners that owe a special assessment over the next 20 years who've just decided to pay it off, and so any money they give us, we have to push to the bondholders. And then we have an emergency repair at our animal shelter for a washer and dryer. And then just a few other transfers on here that I want to mention. The county has been able to save some one-time monies related to various turnover and payroll savings. We did an early buyout incentive to help reduce some of our ongoing salaries and wages costs. And from the time that the employee left till we were able to hire a new one, we had some one-time payroll savings. And so what we want to do with that is take those one-time savings and move that over to our capital projects fund to help us pay for infrastructure and repairs and improvements in the future. So you have those amendments before you. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners, questions for Mr. Park regarding item number 2 on this public hearing?
Just a comment, Mr. Chair.
Please.
I just want to give thanks again to Mr. Park. The financial health that this county enjoys just is another example of this acquisition of property for the transfer station, $1.7 million. In the previous life of graduate school, I spent 3 months in a class analyzing lease versus own. And in very, very few cases did leasing ever make sense. And because of the health of this county, i.e. cash in the bank, we're able to again recognize the importance of making good, sound financial decisions. And this is just one of those. And so I fully support Mr. Park and the efforts. Anytime we can own versus lease, I'm a believer in that.
Great. Thank you.
I would like to say, so everybody understands, this is a separate enterprise fund, and it's run by the garbage collection and the transfer of that garbage from the collectors who bring it in, the garbage trucks, to these great big double trailers that haul it out to landfills. And in doing so, what's happened here is not many years ago, this whole operation was in the hole about $4 million. About 4, was it? 4.5, 5?
Not quite that much, about 3.
Okay, 3. Well, anyway, at that point, we were in pretty tough shape. Well, since then, we've raised our fees. We've started collecting garbage in unincorporated Weber County. We finished paying on the landfill out there that we had to, and we've closed the methane gas operation and removed the building. That just happened. And that fund has gone from negative over $3 million to positive, to the point where we can pay $1.7 million for this equipment and not have to lease it. So that's a pretty doggone good turnaround in 5 or 6 years. And everybody's been involved with that should be congratulated this. I'm just really proud that we've done this and brought the county into financial stability in this portion of it. So very much in favor. I agree with the Commissioner Floor.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Park. Item number 3 on our agenda will be presented by Mr. Steve Burton. Mr. Burton, come on forward. It's a public hearing to consider and take action on a request for approval of the First Amendment to the Snow Basin Development Agreement, ZDA 2021-02. We have members from that organization here also. Mr. Burton, welcome. Thank you.
Yes. Good morning, Commissioners.
Morning.
I just want to mention a few things before I give you just a brief overview. This has been before you in a work session. You've seen it. It was back in November that we met with Snow Basin and brought it to you in a work session. It's also been before the public through the Planning Commission meeting that was held in October 26th. The Planning Commission did recommend that you approve what is being proposed today. So I'll just, if it's okay, I'll just take a couple of minutes here and explain what this development agreement amendment is. So the planning office has been working closely with Snow Basin for the past year in preparation of their proposed changes to the original Snow Basin development agreement that was approved in January of 2011. This is the first time that it's proposed to be amended. So there are three main changes. The first change is related to the concept plan for each development area. So if you know, the Snow Basin Master Plan talks about specific development areas. They're numbered. So there's areas A, B, F, and G. There's also areas that are in Morgan County that aren't related to this agreement at all. So what is being proposed is the original development agreement specifies that before each area can begin to develop, the developer is required to submit a concept plan that shows the general concept of how the specific area will look. And add build out. So basically, with a concept plan, you usually have an aerial view of where the roads are going to be, development types, building locations, parking, trails, things like that. The proposed change here is to allow the developer to amend a concept plan without needing an entire legislative process. So an example is the developer has recently submitted what is the concept plan for Area A. They would, in the future, if they'd like to amend Area A, if they want to move a building in a different location or a road in a different location, they don't want to have to come back through the whole legislative process. They're proposing that the Planning Division and Planning Commission can approve concept plan changes. The second change is to eliminate limitations on commercial density, including hotels in the ski areas. That'd be areas A and B. Currently, Snow Basin has a pool of units, total number of units that were given to them back in 2011. That number is 2,426 units. Under the current agreement, every 5,000 square feet of commercial space developed by Snow Basin equals 1 unit. Snow Basin is proposing to change this to say that a hotel would count as just a third of a unit. They're also proposing that commercial square footage does not take away from their pool of units. The final change is that they're proposing to clarify that none of the workforce housing units that they will build, they wouldn't like to count those towards their unit pool. They'd just like to build those as necessary, and it wouldn't take away from their overall units. They're here to answer any questions. I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any as well. The Planning Commission, as I stated, recommended approval of the proposed changes.
Very good. Commissioners, any questions for Mr. Burton? Any, for those representing the development of Snow Basin in the audience, would you like to come and address us at this time?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, it should be mentioned that the commission has been involved in this all along, as the planners have talked to us, Pres. So it's not like this is the first time we're hearing it.
Correct.
And that's why feel no real need to comment.
Thank you for that comment. Please state your name and where you're from.
I'm Jim Hill. I'm Vice President of Development for Grand America Hotels and Resorts, which is the parent company of Snow Basin. And good morning, Commissioner Frohr, Commissioner Jenkins, Chairman Harvey. Thank you for your consideration of what we're talking about this morning. I know we've gone over this with you in work session. We're happy to answer any questions. I also wanted to introduce my colleagues here. This is Bill Fivash with East West Partners, Steve Isowitz with East West Partners. And we've hired them on a fee basis to help us in master development work. So I'm anticipating in the future that they'll be presenting, subdivisions and various other things related to the development. So I know we have this issue, and we also have the creation of the Water Improvement District that I think is next on the agenda. We appreciate your consideration, and happy to answer any questions, but I also don't want to take any more of your time than is necessary. So,
thank you. Any questions for Jim or his colleagues?
Comment, if I might.
Please.
So I just, again, want to thank Mr. Hill. We've been involved with discussions with Snow Basin over the last year. It seems like a long period of time. I fully support this. The previous development agreement put forth in 2011 just didn't meet today's requirements in terms of what really makes sense at that resort. Snow Basin, I think we'd all agree, is a critical component to Weber County. It's a great facility. It has been since the Olympics. Well, actually, long before that. But
A lot longer before that.
most of us in this room aren't old enough, other than myself and maybe Commissioner Jenkins, to remember that. But
Hold on. Hold on. I want to go on record saying I remember when lift tickets were $9.
well, I only beat you by $5. So anyway, it's been I think it has been and will continue to be a great relationship. I firmly believe that Snow Basin's motivation here is what's best for Weber County. This gives them the flexibility to develop according to whatever the market is. And this is not a 1 year, 2 year project. This is multi-year. And we look at what's changed in the real estate environment over the past 10 years. The next 10 years, I expect it's going to change anymore. But with the vision ahead that the improvements they're going to do for Snow Basin and Weber County will help us all. So I appreciate their help and their willingness to engage not only the county side of this, but also the public side, which they've done for Ogden Valley.
Craig, thank you.
I would like to say to that, when Commissioner Forrest says the last 10 years, look what's happened in the last 2 years.
Yeah.
With inflation and the new construction styles and things that have coming out to help offset what inflation they can, it becomes very hard to develop in the situation that we're in today. It's hard to control your costs. They're changing, Christmas monthly almost, and it's very troubling and to do that. And so plus, you guys in the meantime have had some great opportunities come by that nobody expected, and you can't be faulted for wanting to take advantage of those opportunities. So we're excited about that too. So I'm all in favor of this.
Wonderful. Thank you. And again, Mr. Hill, thanks for introducing your colleagues. I wasn't certain at the beginning of who they were exactly, but thank you. No, that's great. All right, we're going to move on to item number 4.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Item number 4 is a public hearing on a request of water service with the prospective Trappers Loop Water Improvement District. Mr. Chris Crockett.
Thank you, Commissioners. This has also been a conversation that's been going on for quite some time, and it's connected to the development agreement, the public infrastructure districts. But we received a request to provide service for a water improvement district by the Snow Basin. And going over the statutory requirements, it's a 205-page thrilling read. It's like a choose your adventure chapter book, where if depending on what the county does today, so what happens in the unincorporated area, the county gets first crack at whether or not they want to provide a municipal type service. If the county, and then you have to have a public hearing to gauge what the public's interest is in doing that. If the county decides to decline that service, that provides the statutory authorization for the filing of a petition to create a local district, which would be a separate body politic, political subdivision of the state of Utah. We would certify that petition and submit a impending boundary action with the Lieutenant Governor's office. So this is that step where the formal request to provide the service is made to the county, and then depending on what the commission does, will dictate what happens next.
Okay.
Comment?
Please.
It's interesting. That's a great explanation. When you look at the differences in resorts, if you were Park City and Park City Ski Resort come right down to the edge of your town and you could provide those services, that might be something that we as a county wanted to provide. But where Snow Basin's way up on a mountain and we don't have anything even close to it, and we're really not in the water business, we don't want anything to do with it. And so for the people who say, well, why didn't the county do that? I just want to make sure that they know we have looked at it. We decide we don't want anything to do with it.
Very good. Thank you. Comments, Commissioner Frohr?
No, I'm good.
Great. Then we'll move on to our public hearing. We'll move to item number 5 on this, G5, which is the public comments. For those of you online or those of you in the audience that would like to comment on the 2021 calendar year budget, on the Snow Basin Development Agreement, or on the Trappers Loop Water Improvement District, we'll give you some time now, up to 3 minutes, to make your comments. If you make comments, if you'll please state your name and the city where you live or the area where you live, that'd be appreciated. We'll do that now. Are there any here in the audience that would like to comment on any one of those 3 specific items? Please raise your hand. Seeing none, we'll close that here. Is there any online? Seeing none online, we'll close public comments and move to item number 6 on this agenda, which is a request for a motion to adjourn a public hearing and to the public hearings and to convene a public meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. We're now back in a public meeting. We're going to take action on this public hearing that we just heard. Item number 7, G2, which is a request. We'll do these separately, Commissioners. 7G2 is a request for approval of a resolution amending the operation and capital budget of the Weber County for the 2021 calendar year. Commissioners, on my notes, I would have item resolution number 57-2721.
Mr.
2721 is correct. Thank you.
2021.
2021. Thank you. I thought one of those numbers didn't sound right. It looked good in my head. Didn't come out right.
Mr. Chair, that's in my portfolio, and I would be glad to make the motion to approve Resolution 57-2021.
We have a motion for Resolution 57-2021.
I'll second that.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. I'll make that, Mr. Brandt, if you'd go ahead, please.
Okay, roll call vote for Resolution 57-2021. Commissioner Floor.
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Aye.
Chairman Harvey.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you, Commissioners. Item number G3, under item G7, is a request for an approval of the First Amendment to Snow Basin Development Agreement, ZDA 2021-02.
I'd make that motion.
Thank you.
Second.
I have a motion and a second for this approval of the First Amendment to the Snow Basin. Mr. Crockett, is this a roll call?
Yes, I would go ahead and just do it as a roll call.
Thank you very much for clarification. Mr. Brandt, go ahead, please.
Okay, roll call vote for item G3. Commissioner Floor.
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Aye.
Chairman Harvey.
Aye. Motion carries. Thank you. Item number G4 is a request for a water service within the proposed Trappers Loop Water Improvement District. Commissioners, questions on this item?
Mr. Chair, I'd move to approve the proposed Trappers Loop Water Improvement District.
We have a motion to approve.
So this one...
I was going to say, I was going to wait for the second, but I don't think this is the one we want to deny, isn't it?
Right, correct. To deny the request for service, and then the next item would be to certify, allow the certification of the
Okay. I'll restate that motion.
Thank you.
Motion is to deny.
Thank you.
service.
I'd second that.
Very good. There we go. Let's roll call that one too, Mr. Brandt. It's to deny. So let's be clear. We are doing a roll call to deny the improvement district.
The request to have the county provide
Water
the
service.
service.
Right. That's correct.
I should have looked ahead of my agenda.
It's all right.
Is that a resolution then that we're...
Yes, it is a resolution.
Okay.
So resolution 58, number 2021. So yes means to deny.
That's my motion, to deny Resolution 58-2021.
And that was my second.
Mr. Brandt.
Okay, roll call vote to deny Resolution 58-2021. Commissioner Floor.
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins.
Aye.
Chairman Harvey.
Aye. Wonderful. Let's move on to F, like Foxtrot on our agenda.
You might explain to the people watching what we just did, because they're sitting out there thinking, why'd you deny that?
Okay. I'm going to go to Mr. Crockett. Go ahead.
So The county has just indicated that it is not willing to provide the service, and I would refer back to Commissioner Jenkins' comments. There's a lot of logistics that go into that due to proximity of where the resort is, what types of services, and is there another entity or another scenario that would be better suited and a better use of county funds and give people in that area more of an appropriate say on the services that are provided and how that they're managed. So with the denial for the request for service, that gives statutory authorization for the petitioners, and the county has in its possession right now a petition to organize a local district. This will allow the clerk to certify that petition and then send the necessary documents to the Lieutenant Governor's office to create the Trappers Loop Water Improvement District so that that service can be provided.
And we had to deny it to start the process.
Correct.
Yeah, that's the choose your adventure type thing.
And we, the people, voted for this process. Just to be clear, we voted for this process. This is the right way to go about it, or the legal way to go about it.
Right.
Very good. Thank you,
then
Commissioner.
Once, for further clarification, once the district is approved, they will a board will be appointed. They will have to go through truth and taxation like any other governmental entity. They can establish fees, they'll establish rules and regulations, and they'll develop a plan for installing the infrastructure, which will bring in the PIDs later.
Very good. You had any more comments, Commissioner Jenkins?
Nope.
Great. I'll entertain a motion that, excuse me. Let's move on to item number F. Number 16 listed here is a request for approval of a resolution, which would be resolution number 59-2021 of the County Commissioners of Weber County authorizing the certification of the petition to create a Trappers Loop Water Improvement District. With
Mr. Chair, now I'll make a motion to approve.
That's exactly what we're looking for.
So this would be the affirmative to approve 59-2021.
And I would be more than glad to second that.
Great. We have a motion and a second for Resolution 59-2021 to approve the certification of a petition to create a Trappers Loop Water Improvement District. Mr. Brandt.
Okay, Resolution 59-2021. Commissioner Farrar?
Aye.
Commissioner Jenkins?
Aye.
Chairman Harvey?
Aye. Motion carries. Commissioners, before we move on to item H, like Harvey, I'd like to again comment on the great staff we have up in the commission office. And it's been decided that this next season, so to speak, the Stall of Fame recipient for outstanding service and everything will be our own Miss Christy Bingham. You know, there's another one too. I just, probably just a little too emotional today, but every time you walk into that office, Christy always meets everyone with a smile and at least a positive greeting. How refreshing. It's just nice. And she's got a little bit of a giggle or a chuckle to her all the time. And she's competent and she does her job very well. And we're just super grateful to have you, Christy. And so what we'd like to do is present you with your very own Stall of Fame, wow, coveted star keychain, and we'll do that now, if that's okay. We'll do that right up front here.
Go over there. Gotta get a picture. They told me this was for Shelley, that's why I was like.
Christy, congratulations. We do appreciate you. Thank you very much. Christy, let's stand so we kind of both got the wreath here. Hold your little star, and then we'll climb in here and get a picture.
Cheese.
Shelley?
Say cheese.
Okay, cheese.
Awesome, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Yay!
You know, with everything we've had on the calendar today, on our calendar, you're going to be in that back room for about an hour signing everything. So Commissioner Farr, I'll meet you upstairs.
Thank you. Thank you for those glad tidings. Okay, great. Are there any other comments you'd like to make?
I think that's good.
Mr. Farr?
Lengthy agenda, but I think very productive meeting, so I appreciate all those that were in attendance this morning.
The last time we had 4 items on a public hearing, the hearing went 3 hours. So we're half that time. I'm super grateful that we've been able to clean this up and be a little more efficient. We didn't have this many items on the agenda either. Okay, item number I, a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
All in favor? Aye. Motion carries. Woo.